Hello, everyone. Welcome. It is Thursday night. It is time for Revolutionary Change. I'm Jen Perelman, or Miss Rachel today. This is my homage to Miss Rachel. It is Halloween-ish. I know it's not Halloween till tomorrow, but this is, I guess, the closest show we'll have to Halloween. So I thought, especially in light of the fact that she is now Glamour's Woman of the Year, which is, I was just saying this to Colin. It's so kind of interesting that we all have infinitely more respect for the woman who's Glamour magazine's Woman of the Year than we do for the person who won the Nobel Peace Prize. Let that marinate for a second. That's where we are. So Peter will be here in a minute. He is stuck in traffic. He has to get to a hotel lobby somewhere in Dallas. I don't know where he is. So yeah, I know. Miss Rachel, right? I know. Rachel, it's good, right? My Rachel, it's good, right? Yeah. So yeah, I thought, we're trying to get organized and have like more regimented segments and stuff like that. And so I have, some clips that I could just show while waiting for Peter to get here. Or I don't know, I could respond to the first interesting thing I see in the chat. You never know what's going to happen here. Why is Jen dressed up in hate speech garb? Oh, you know what? Yeah, no, my white hood was at the cleaners. So I had to go for, this. So there's so much going on. And I feel like we need to get to the point where almost like we have segments based on continents, because while it is all interconnected, it's just, I feel so scattered all over the globe in my head. Does anybody else feel scattered all over the globe in their head? I mean, and I'm not saying I haven't considered Africa often, in fact, because I have. But it really needs to be much more of a primary focus in general, and not just because of what's going on right now in Sudan. There's so many different things going on in Africa. I don't think people realize how big it is, because our globe is, well, yeah, the globe is not correct because of anywho, so yeah, there's always something, and it ends up being, sort of put on the back burner because it's all the way over there. It's, and we're just so ignorant in general in this country about other countries, and very much so about, I would say, what we would consider to be like lesser developed nations. And yeah, so I think and now you've got what's going on in Venezuela. So, it's like we can't stop looking at South America. Not that, I mean, I grew up in South Florida, so I've always been very keenly aware of what's going on in South America. But it's like the whole world is this powder keg right now. And I feel like the people in this country, I feel like we live in, I have a couple of metaphors. We're in the Truman Show. And the rest of the world is sort of watching the United States like we're in our own little Truman Show. Like we think that, we are the center of the world. Like that's the world. And it just, we're not. And I think most people are not being exposed to that information. And I find it concerning from the point of view that this is escalating very quickly, what's going on in this country, what's going on globally. And I knew that Donald Trump would facilitate the revolution, but it's really happening like expeditiously all around the globe. And so I think it's so important for us to understand each other around the globe, because this is a global class war. And we need to be in coordination and in community with, and I know that sounds like what people say is a very woke term, but we need to be revolutionaries with the working people everywhere in the world, right? Like we're all on we need to all be on that team. right? So yeah, we haven't spoken about what's going on in Russia and Ukraine for a while, and that's still a complete shit show. I mean, Iran, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, now, it's like it's the world is a giant powder keg. It's just kind of I know people always say we're living in a really unique time, but there are so many days in the past year that really seem like a lot of things kind of happening at the same time in a good way, but I think in a scary way. And I think that it's not going to happen without significant pain, and we're seeing a lot of that. So it's really hard, but this needs to happen because we're doing it wrong. We're doing it wrong. And I've said this before, that I really feel when I see what's happening I mean, not just Gaza, not just with Palestinians, but just like humanity in general, and how we are able to treat people, how we treat people in this country, how we treat and I really do think we have failed as a species. We have failed as a species, you know. And I don't know whether or not like we're going to come back from that, because that also now has to be completely counterbalanced with the planet being on fire. So let's say even hypothetically, we could get our shit together as humanity and stop holocausting people and stop abusing the planet. Like, let's just say hypothetically we could do that. I don't know that it's not too late from a climate perspective. And certainly not, and certainly in a lot of places in the world. And which brings me to something that I thought was very interesting. And I thought I would just sort of ramble and chat about this because I often will go and look at comments on our videos. I do. I read comments, I respond, sometimes not so nicely, sometimes very pleasantly. Sometimes I surprise myself. But I had made a comment the other night. I don't even remember what the video clip is where it is, this comment is on, but it's not related to, I cannot tell you which video it is, but last week. And I had said during that show that at some point, everything south of Lake Okeechobee is going to be uninhabitable. It's going to be underwater. And this person who I can't even, Peter would probably love to sit here and try to figure out exactly who this demographic is. But this woman said that that's just stupid. And that I was just, when you talk that way, it's just nobody's going to take you seriously and you're just not in reality. The wording. And I responded, well, no, actually, we're built on limestone and the salt water is rising. And, we've covered this a lot of times on this show, and it is inevitable. We will run out of clean drinking water. There's issues. We got issues. But that same day or the next day after I saw that comment, this giant sinkhole opened up in Mount Dora. Mount Dora is about an hour north of Orlando. It's a cute little town, lots of antique stores, it's cute. Fudge, one of those places. So it had been raining a lot and a car was sitting there. I do not think anybody was hurt. But the whole road, I don't know if people know what sinkholes are. We are getting them more and more frequently in Florida. And which it's just interesting. So then again, yesterday in the same vicinity, yet there was another big sinkhole that just happened. And we're not talking that we even have a hurricane hovering over or any particular it's not even been particularly rainy. So for people to say things like, when I'm talking about South Florida being underwater as being hyperbolic, I assure you it is not. That during King Tide in Miami, the streets are all underwater already. that in Fort Lauderdale, when the streets flood, which could happen in just a lot of rain in the summertime, doesn't have to be a hurricane, that our infrastructure is old, so there's sewage in the streets. And, just a lot of things. So I just wanted to clear that up, that is something that is actually going on. And we are going to get more into that when Peter gets here, about talking about what just happened with the hurricane in Jamaica. I think there's been some very interesting commentary that I've seen put out. And a lot of it has been, of course, I definitely watch more actual left media. But in terms of when you see how other countries handle disasters and rapid response, it's just infinitely different than how we handle disaster and rapid response, and how we look out for our people here. So, it's all connected. And so it brings me back to my original point. Like, this is why it is so hard for me to focus. Like, I'm just like, I have like global overwhelming, I don't know, it's a combination of rage and anxiety, but why not use the National Guard to help in disaster moments? Yes, why indeed? Why indeed? And we're this hurricane season, I don't know, was it this hurricane season was 20 years? Yeah, 20 years from Hurricane Katrina, and how that was in New Orleans. And I remember that very well, from the standpoint of, we had W standing there saying, "Good job, Brownie," to his, whatever the guy's name was, who he called Brownie, that was running FEMA. Meanwhile, people were like standing on roofs watching corpses float by, and people were like flooded out and like in the most horrid conditions. And so many people were just so screwed over there. And he's like, "Good job, Brownie," while people were literally standing on roofs. So we are definitely seeing more and more the fact that it's the end of October and they just saw a Category 5 hurricane. It's, we can't say that things aren't happening. And at some point, I guess I could get back into the explaining why it actually matters in South Florida that people, seem to think we could just build higher seawalls and somehow that'll work. Yet it will not. Oh, our friend is here. Hello.
Hi, Miss Rachel. Unfortunately, my apologies, guys. I'm in Dallas.
You've made me sit here and pontificate. I've been pontificating.
Probably did a pretty good job, and I'm sure people appreciated the outfit. On Saturday night, I will have a costume. So we're pre-Halloween, and I'll be one day post-Halloween, which is technically All Hallows Day. I'm going to try to grow this out a little bit if I can. I know it takes a while to do it, but I thought about it and I realized, I was actually at an event and there was a Miss Rachel person. And I said, "That is a great outfit." Now,
it's pretty easy. It's pretty easy.
Well, it is. And
that's the beauty of it.
Well, yeah, Zach Foss is supposed to come on Saturday. So hopefully we will have that conversation because he does know her, and hopefully.
Oh my God. I would freak out. No, but what's interesting, and I said this before when I came on, it's like, imagine that you're so much more impressed with the Glamour Woman of the Year than you are with the winner of the Nobel Peace Prize.
You know what?
Right?
Up is down, left is right.
Oh, yeah.
All the things that we have to deal with on a regular basis. What have you covered so far since I am?
I don't even, you know what? I just sort of did like a very long-winded introduction, almost that in this way, like there's shit on every continent that is out of control. The climate crisis is like I just sort of touched on that. We're going to get into some of those things, but the point being, it's like, we cannot cover all the stuff. You can't cover all the stuff.
No, you want to cover as much of it as you possibly can. And I'm reminded that when people ask, "Well, why haven't you covered this? Why wouldn't you cover that?" You do the best you can with what you have. And we try to prioritize the stories that are very important. And you and I obviously have gone to lengths to do everything we can to cover what is going on right now in Gaza, and we will continue to do so, and it's still a primary focus of what we do. But there is no question that what is going on right now in Sudan is a nightmare. And
Sudan's been a nightmare for a really long time, on and off. And of course, the more you dig in it, it has our stink all over it, right?
Of course.
So right. That's the thing. That's how I know, like, everything traces back to our stink. Truthfully.
Well, but I want to frame this in a capacity, or in an angle, I should say, that I don't think enough people are really focused on, which I've always believed that no matter where any type of outbreak of violence occurs, there could be many reasons why it's happening. But the one that always comes to mind is that there's an economic component that's always attached to it. There's never a situation where there is an economic component to the devastation that we see around the world. And in the case of what's going on in Sudan, there is no question that if those that are not informed and are not aware of what is going on there, the RSF, Jen, how would you describe the RSF?
They're terrorists. They're terrorists. I would say militant guerrilla terrorist army. Well, I don't know. What would you call them?
I would call them just another organization that pops up and becomes very powerful because there are outside forces that are funding them. You know, kind of like Hamas, funded by Israel. People don't want to talk about that. ISIS, funded by various elements of the State Department. And now RSF, funded by the United Arab Emirates. And why would they want to do something like that? Well, they say it's a true genocide. Amazing, Jen, how 1,500 people killed is a genocide. But when 500,000 people are killed, it's not. I'm just saying. No, the reason why I believe this is happening right now is because there is as much as 150 billion plus in gold reserves in Sudan. And that's a lot of money and a lot of power and a lot of influence. And so when you think about what's currently happening globally from an economic standpoint, we're in some type of an economic global crisis, and gold reserves are becoming infinitely more valuable than they have been in quite some time. And so since you alluded to the fact that the UAE has been stealing the gold through these proxies in Sudan for a very long time.
Did you have that video? Do you have the video that I sent you that I thought was like the best explanation of this?
I don't think so. And if you didn't,
I sent it to that Instagram. It's that guy that I forget his account. Guys, I watched like whatever, but it was really good the way he surmised all the different hands that are in this mess that is happening right now and what brought it to this situation. And
you sent this on IG?
Yeah. No, I probably texted it to you. When I want you to see things, I text it to you because I know you don't always check Instagram.
Okay, so
I said, it was from Instagram, but I sent it in your text.
Did you send it earlier today?
No, I think it was yesterday.
Let's see.
And I even said, I think we should use this.
No, I've got the thing from the flotilla. I do not have anything from yesterday pertaining to this story.
That's so weird.
You know where you sent it, that would be very helpful.
It might have been on Instagram. That's so weird.
Probably where you sent it. That's why you got to be sure about that.
But I don't know.
And if you sent it to me, you probably sent it to my other account. So I got to get to that now. See what?
No, don't. You don't need to get to it. It was just a good. It was a very good summation, if you will, of all the different parties that are involved in this. It's like the word genocide is now starting to be like just very ubiquitous. But no, and it isn't just gold. It isn't just gold. It isn't. There's a lot of behind the scenes wheelings and dealings and stuff going on here. It has to do with the waterfront area that's on the Red Sea. There's a
Well,
lot
again,
of
this gets back to
variables.
but it comes down to resources more than anything else. That without question, anyone who thinks that this is a religious war, that this is because they're Muslims or Christians, remember, the State Department, in conjunction with the Mossad, puts their talking points out there to distract from the Gaza genocide, or they don't want it to ever become anything other than, we have to do this because the Muslims are evil. And that's why we have to deal with them. And by the way, the people that are committing these atrocities in Sudan, they're all Muslim. At least that's what they want you to believe, that that's what it's based on. But here's what Al Jazeera has to say. And I often say that any stories we're going to get, they're going to have anything close to the truth, are going to come from outside our country. They're not going to come from us. A true genocide, RSF kills at least 1,500 people in Sudan's El Fasher. Regional countries express alarm as more evidence emerges of mass killings by paramilitary forces in El Fasher. So scores of people have been killed in attacks by the Rapid Support Forces, as they've come to be known, RSF, during the recent capture of the city of El Fasher in Sudan's western Darfur region, according to a medical group and researchers. The RSF, which has been fighting Sudan's military for control of the country, killed at least 1,500 people over the past 3 days. Again, sounds like a normal day in Gaza.
It was the thing I sent you today. I just saw it. It was today. I sent it to you.
Then send it to Colin, please.
Okay. Go ahead. Keep going.
Killed at least 1,500 people in the days as civilians tried to flee the besieged city, the Sudan Doctors Network said on Wednesday. The group, which tracks the country's civil war, described the situation as a true genocide. Again, we've been talking about genocide for a while, and I guess it's left up to interpretation depending on who's doing it. The massacres the world is witnessing today are an extension of what occurred in El Fasher more than a year and a half ago. While over 14,000 civilians were killed through bombing, starvation, and extrajudicial executions. It is said that the attacks are being carried out as part of a deliberate and systematic campaign of killing and extermination. The statement comes as new evidence of mass killings in the strategic area has emerged from Yale's Humanitarian Research Lab, which reported that satellite imagery of El Fasher taken after the RSF moved in shows clusters of objects consistent with the size of human bodies, as well as large areas of red discoloration on the ground, which, as you have alluded to, is blood.
Can be seen from space. Can be seen from space. Blood.
The paramilitary force overran El Fasher, the army's last stronghold in Darfur, on Sunday after 17 months of siege. The Sudanese government said on Wednesday that at least 2,000 people have been killed in the city since then, while aid agencies say they have received credible reports of atrocities, including summary executions, attacks on civilians along escape routes, and house-to-house raids. Sexual violence, particularly against women and girls, of course, was also reported in the city. El Fasher's fall puts the RSF in near full control of the vast region of Darfur and has raised concerns of another split of Sudan, more than a decade after South Sudan's creation. Do we have that clip ready?
I don't. I just told Colin to check his text. He has to probably take a second for him to get it.
Have a little bit more, let's see, almost, okay.
Yeah.
Al Jazeera's Heba Morgan, reporting from Khartoum, said videos on social media taken by the RSF showed fighters shooting at civilians attempting to flee. The latest and most disturbing video to surface was of the fighters roaming through what has been identified as the Saudi hospital in the city of El Fasher, executing patients. Survivors who fled the city said at least 500 people have been seeking refuge in the hospital. Among those killed were health workers, of course. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus.
Oh, you're not even going to say that. You can't not even pronounce that.
I'm a gringo. What can I do? Director General of the WHO, F them, said that more than 460 people were killed at the Saudi maternity hospital. He He said the WHO was appalled and deeply shocked by the reports. Again, it is what it is. Regional alarm, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Qatar, Turkey, and Jordan have condemned the abuses committed by the RSF in Sudan. What is the point of condemning this violence if you're not going to actually do anything about it? Jen?
I have the clip. I have a clip. So this is a gentleman that I follow on Instagram. He's kind of got a quirky vibe to him, but he's very factually and very precise. And I just think that he sums up all the different players that are involved in what is going on right now, because Sudan's been an issue for a long time. So
watch some idiot slating Dubai and saying the whole thing is built on slave labor.
Oh yeah, it definitely is, but it's also actually much worse than that. See, beyond the migrant slave labor imported to physically build Dubai, it's also built off the back of war crimes, genocide, and good old-fashioned theft. Hey, did you know that the UAE, which is the country Dubai is in, is actually the second largest trading hub for physical gold in the world, accounting for nearly 1/3 of all global trade? That's
And as I often say, everything comes back to money and power. Anytime they throw religion as the excuse, saying that this is Christian genocide by the Muslims, just know it's a shield for something much worse. And as you know, much like the $500 billion worth of natural gas under Gaza soil, Sudan is filled with hundreds of billions of dollars in gold.
yeah, let him go because there's a lot of factors here.
impressive. It's also disturbing considering the UAE doesn't have any gold, at least not its own gold, but it is in fact the #1 destination for gold coming out of Sudan, including lots of gold coming from artisanal mining, which is a fancy modern word for slave labor camp. So it seems like their slave labor tendencies are not just the domestic variety. Now, you've probably heard that Sudan are in the midst of a particularly brutal civil war, so the UAE are maintaining access to Sudanese gold by supplying the RSF, the Sudanese Rapid Support Forces, with funds and weaponry, which are then being used to brutalize hundreds of thousands of people and displace millions of people. I think over 10 million people. Of course, the United Arab Emirates are not the only meddlers at play here. In fact, the scope and the nature of the geopolitical involvement in this crisis is frankly mind-boggling. For instance, there's credible evidence that Chinese weaponry has made it into the hands of the RSF via the UAE. Also, British manufactured weapons have been found in the conflict, and they also supply weaponry to the UAE. Saudi Arabia are involved in the conflict, Iran are involved, Turkey are involved. Now, interestingly, Iran and Turkey usually find themselves on opposite sides of geopolitical squabbling, but in this case seem to find themselves pulling on the same side. But then,
well, there's plenty of gold to go around for everybody now, isn't there?
I mean, it's just, it goes to show you, like, at some point, everybody hates everybody. Like, it's so ridiculous. The person who you're, for the same reason that we're always so seemingly anti-Russia, when yet they were the ally that helped create, the world that we have, been sacrificing their people in World War II so that we can become the empire we've become. But somehow they're the enemy.
Iran, who provide weaponry to Russia to help them fight the war in Ukraine, in this instance, they find themselves on opposite sides of the conflict. Chad are involved, but then again, accusations say that the gold that's being smuggled out of Sudan into the UAE is happening through Chad, so that's not very surprising. Egypt are involved, but then again, the sitting Egyptian president came to power via military coup assisted and funded by the UAE, so I guess that's not surprising either. The Russians have actual physical mercenary troops from the Wagner Group on the ground in Sudan fighting alongside the RSF. And the Ukraine has special forces on the ground fighting against the Russians. And the reason for the Russian presence is because of Western sanctions on the Russian economy due to the war in Ukraine, so they need gold to prop up economy and keep it from collapsing. Now, that one's particularly interesting because that means that if the West were to apply collective pressure on the United Arab Emirates to stop arming this conflict, it wouldn't just be likely to end the war in Sudan, it would also be likely to end the war in Ukraine, or at least make it significantly harder for Russia to keep funding the war effort. So why doesn't
It's all connected. It's all connected. Exactly. You know what? It makes me think of A Beautiful Mind. You know, one of those charts that people have with the
That whole scene with Russell Crowe when he first goes to the State Department and he's looking at the codes and the numbers flashing and everything. And you know what? It's true. It's true that during the Cold War, hidden messaging would be put in different publications in print. And there's no question when it comes to warfare, Russia, Ukraine, Gaza, Sudan, what could be North Korea,
Saudi Arabia,
and Yemen. It's all connected.
all connected.
All of it. It's all about money and power, baby. And it always will be.
that happen? Well, I have a few guesses. There's the classic cynical response that politicians don't actually want to end conflicts because they're very well aware that funding conflicts is one of the financial cornerstones of a global economic infrastructure that is hugely beneficial to multi-trillion-dollar financial entities that fund those very same politicians. But beyond that, or perhaps intertwined with that, is the Western world's financial ties to the UAE. I mean, I said earlier that the UK supplies weapons to them, but their largest weapon supplier is the United States. Israel is a major supplier.
And wait, I'm glad you stopped there, because how is it that Ziohel is supplying the UAE, right? Or the RSF is what we're talking about, right?
So
right now he's talking about to the UAE. So how is Israel supplying weapons to the UAE when we have to supply weapons to Israel?
because it's
Like,
all
what is that?
well, remember, we have $1 trillion military budget. And what is the number one export that we have in this country? Weaponry, military. And so we give all of these weapons, we give them to Israel. They can't use all of them. So they give them to the UAE. And the UAE goes in directly to Sudan. They start genociding them. They start getting control over the gold reserves. And whoop-de-damn-do, look what we did. We just made a profit by investing in getting rid of the Sudanese control over their own country, put in our paramilitary group, seize control of the gold reserves, and voila, that's economics, baby.
It's just, you say it like gleefully.
I say it gleefully because I'm tired of giving a fuck.
Well,
just tell the truth and do not sugarcoat it. I don't want to hear nothing from nobody about how this is, it's the Muslims killing the Christians.
No, it's
war, baby. Or
it's global elite. Stop calling me baby. It's global elites.
I'm not calling you baby.
You're just saying baby in general. Are you in character?
Miss Rachel.
It's global elites.
Sweden supplies weapons to the UAE. And that's just the weapons trading, right? There's oil trading. They're famous for that. And obviously, the gold. There's the gold trading. I mean, the problem here is we're all in bed with each other. And that's just national conflicts of interest. There's also personal conflicts. Like Donald Trump is investing personally. He has plans to build a skyscraper hotel resort in Dubai by 2031.
We're totally going to build the greatest hotel you've ever seen. It'll be in Dubai. We're going to have a great time, Jen. You know that's how we make America great again.
Again, the problem is all these places that they're building, all these sort of like wealthy Riviera places, there's not enough people to go to them. This is capitalism just imploding on itself on mass scale because there's not enough people to go to it. I mean, look at what's happening to Vegas. There's just not enough people to be able to go to these places that they're building. And as much as they don't want the regular people there, I get it, but these places are way too big to not have regular people.
Well, look at that. I mean, how do you amass 5 billion with a B fortune after crypto launch? It's
A year ago, right? A year
it's a
ago.
pump and dump scheme.
Uh-huh. It's like having Bernie Madoff for president.
This is what happens. This is when people say, oh my God, the Trump family's a crime family. Yeah, so is the Biden family. So are all these guys. The Trumps just do it so brazenly, they don't care who sees it.
No.
They've just exposed the whole system. And lo and behold, because they decided, oh, well, that's just the cost of doing business. Eventually, we were going to get somebody in there that was going to make it that much worse. You never dealt with Wasserman Schultz. You never dealt with Pelosi. You never dealt with any of them that have been looting the treasury for decades. And now that you've got them in there, and they just don't give a shit about anything.
But you would see Debbie Wasserman Schultz would be one of the first people to stand up and say, it's, look at this. Trump got all this money from the crypto business.
1,000%. So again, this is why no one takes this country seriously anymore, and they shouldn't. It's inevitably we are heading to some form of a collapse.
Mentioned the billions of dollars worth of crypto money that Donald Trump has somehow magically made in the last less than 1 year. Look, this money has to come from somewhere, right? When you make this much money, somebody else has to lose it. Now, I don't know about you, but I have a hard time believing that billionaires are making the exact same bad investment over and over and over again in a way that just so happens to personally benefit the most diplomatically powerful human being on the planet. I think they might be just losing their money to him on purpose, which would be bribery. It's invisible bribery. Allegedly, of course, this is speculative. I can't prove that that's true, nor can I prove where the money is coming from. That's kind of the point, right? But if it were up to me to venture a wild guess, I might start with, like the few human beings on the planet that we know for a fact have access to billions of dollars of disposable, invisible funds. And yeah, that's another country I can probably never visit now. The world gets smaller every 2 or 3 videos I make. Not that I'd ever actually want to visit. I mean, this is essentially a giant shopping mall in a desert, which is like the 2 worst things in the world combined into one. Why would anyone want to be here?
That's exactly how I feel about that. Like there.
For years and years, when people would talk up Dubai and say what an amazing place it is, there is nothing amazing about Dubai. It's a completely, it's
another made up place. It's another Disney World. Yes.
It is a made up place for the rich and the powerful. There is nothing to it. And when I hear people talk about, the only people who enjoy Dubai are the rich and powerful. Like, this is not for regular people. And by the way, you want to talk about sex trafficking? Go to Dubai, because that's where a lot of that shit goes down. Like, a lot of it. So nothing surprises me when it comes to the price that people have to pay. And how do you think, Jen, that the jet setters and all the people around the world would feel if they knew that the only reason Dubai exists is because we have to go into Sudan and pillage and mass murder these people, steal their gold, bring it to the UAE, and build up these cities on sand? Do you think that the average person who enjoys Dubai would give a flying fuck about how many innocent Sudanese have to be mass murdered in order for them to enjoy their jet-setting life in Dubai? Probably not.
No, but I would say that that's colonialism in a nutshell with capitalism. I mean, I just think that's how we just are in general. And people have so compartmentalized. And that's one of the things I was talking about before. Like, it's very easy to not think about, people that are on a whole other continent. And especially a continent that is so massive and we know so little about, right? Then there's so many different parts of Africa. And so it's easy to not think of that and sort of put it on a back burner. And it can't be, because it's the cradle of civilization.
I want to play one last clip for you guys to see just how brutal this treatment is of these innocent people. Now, in case you're wondering what is actually going on right now, there are RSF soldiers tormenting this woman and her children in an open field. That's what they're doing. Now, I don't believe that they killed them, at least as far as I know, but they're pointing their guns at them. Just remember, always question how things come to be. Just like when people don't want to talk about the fact that the White House and the Capitol and Monticello and Montpelier were built by people that look like that woman and her children. It's a dark history in more ways than one.
It's for me, it's just, I look at this woman in her eyes and it's just soul crushing. It's soul crushing as a mother. Like, she's sitting there holding her babies and she can't protect her babies.
Yeah. She's probably saying, yeah. In her mind, she's saying, if you're going to take anybody, take me. But don't.
Here's what I don't really understand, though. Let's say, hypothetically, I thought, all right, let's say we wanted to just let them have the gold. Let them have the gold. You want the gold? Have the gold. Let's just say, give them the gold. Why do we need to be massacring people? Why does that, like, I don't, that's where we get into this whole level of sadism and anti-humanity that's really freaking me out the most. Because I understand that they want the gold, let them play their whatever. And I don't think they should be able to get it. I think that's absurd. But why does that necessitate massacring people as opposed to just taking the gold and, I don't know, not massacring people? Like, I don't understand.
It's more, again, it's morbid curiosity. People want to know what it's like to kill somebody. And when people get to certain levels of power and wealth and they know that they're above the law.
I don't understand. Like, look at this woman. Look at her. Like,
yeah. And I hate to say it, but if it was a, let's say a white Ukrainian family, the reaction to it would probably be different on the global stage.
Or white South Africans that are fleeing persecution.
Yeah. You don't get darker than this. This is as dark as it gets in more ways than one. So people look at them and they think, well, they're expendable. It's tough, but I want to live a good life. I want to live a fast life. I want to live in Dubai, or I want to visit Dubai and have a great time. How do we do that? How do we keep making that life? Well, go steal some more gold.
This is why I say we have failed as a species. The fact that what that woman with her 3 babies in that position, we have failed as a species. Like, there's just certain things that just, there's never a justification ever for that. There's nothing that could possibly justify that. That's how you know we have failed.
If you're going to be like anybody and you want to try to make this world a better place, at least try to make it a better place. If anybody is wondering exactly why Jen looks the way that she does, well, this is why.
Everyone knows. Yay! Hi! I'm an overalls person. You know that. Like, I've always loved my overalls.
I wish more people that had the platform of Miss Rachel would use it the way that it was meant to be used.
All right, I need higher pony. Look how cute she is.
She looks great.
Yeah, well, I've got a good 12 plus years on her, I think. 10 years on her, at least.
And when it comes to speaking up and doing what is right for humanity, she is doing that in spades. But she's not the only one who is doing that.
Yeah.
Another person who has been speaking up about humanity is Sami Hamdi. And if you guys are not familiar, with Sami Hamdi's story, and it is pretty bad. Sami Hamdi, I believe I'm saying it right, he is a British Muslim commentator who has had his visa revoked and was captured by ICE. Here is a
Where
little,
was that? Where was he? Where was he taken into
so I
custody?
believe he was in, I think he was in LA.
Okay.
I believe that's where he was captured.
Okay.
And here is a person who has very strong opinions about Israel and just our global political disposition in general. Here's a little snippet of what he had to say.
They did not consent to the ceasefire. If you look at the signatories of that agreement and the like, they did not choose to be part of the guarantors. The guarantors are Turkey, Qatar, and Egypt. UAE and Saudi refused to put their signatures on that, indicating they did not see themselves as mediators. They did not want to be seen as mediators. And if they claim to have been mediators, why didn't they put their signatures down as guarantors?
Why not?
Why indeed?
So what are the two? So who are the two Middle Eastern countries that didn't sign? Saudi Arabia and the UAE.
Well,
And
right.
What do they have in common, Jen?
They're both our bitches.
Business partners.
Mm.
And there's a lot of money to go around when you're talking the UAE. And let's also be more clear about Dubai. Dubai is a meeting place for the global elites. That is basically their go-to when it comes to their rendezvous. Like, where do we have them? We have them in Dubai. And Saudi Arabia, unlike Iran, is our bitch partner when it comes to the oil reserves. Hence why we're trying to take over Venezuela now.
It's not going to happen. Anywho.
Not unless you want World War III, that's what's coming. But here you have a man who's using his platform to call this out. So when the State Department finds out that this guy's in this country, what do you think they're going to do? ICE, go get him. Pretty simple, wouldn't you say?
I don't know in terms of like, is he from here?
Well, no, he's from the UK, but he was here.
Right, but he was here on a visa and then they just revoked his visa and just kidnapped him.
Of course.
Yeah, the insanity.
Totally.
So he's a UK, but he's a UK citizen. That's what I'm saying. Like where's his national? Okay,
Yes.
so UK.
Yeah.
Our friends, that's how you treat your friends. Well, look how Zioheld treats us.
Remember, it was totally coincidental that they got him anyway.
And take the credit for brokering that ceasefire agreement. It's because they did not want the ceasefire and they were upset about the ceasefire. Before that ceasefire was declared, there was a report, I think it was in Al Arabi or the like, which is a Qatari paper. But bear in mind, the Qataris don't want to provoke the UAE at this moment in time. So for this article to emerge at this time indicates that the Qataris felt that getting a ceasefire was more important than keeping the peace with the UAE, which it's been trying to do for ages despite the animosity. This article suggested that the UAE and Saudi Arabia were angry with Egypt and trying to pressure Sisi not to host the Sharm el-Sheikh conference. They were pressuring Sisi and telling him, what on earth are you doing? When we see that Hamas now is struggling in Gaza, let the Israelis continue doing what they're doing. Why are you so keen in order to see the ceasefire take place in Gaza when...
Okay, so I was going to bring up Egypt before the triad in the who are our sort of little fiefdom regions over there. It's Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. And so we were, and so I'm like, okay, but the difference is that Egypt borders Gaza. Okay, so the difference is they're right there and they have a direct, connection to what's going on. So that is the difference between Egypt and Saudi Arabia and the UAE as far as what's going on in Gaza.
Now, is Egypt, unlike Saudi Arabia, Egypt does not have the natural resources that Saudi Arabia does that we want. However, I get the impression that Egypt kind of doesn't want to be involved in any of this.
There's weird, look, there's sort of like, I would say, transcontinental rivalries and all sorts of shit that goes on there in terms of who's who. There just is the fact that Egypt is Africa and the other countries are Asia. And there's a very big difference in terms of the Muslim sects and it's it's conflicted. But at the end of the day, all three of those countries are countries that we send a substantial amount of money to, or support in whatever way, or weapons, or whatever we give them to some extent. So Egypt is the second largest recipient of aid from us after Ziohel. So they're pretty beholden. Saudi and UAE are beholden for other reasons, like weapons and other, other things. But yeah.
And I would also say that don't forget who Egypt's neighbor is. They don't want to end up like Libya.
Well, and it's that, and they share a direct border, and they've been, on the front of dealing with trying to walk a fine line with being abused by Ziohel since 1948, and also being able to get aid from us and be in our good graces. So Egypt is in a precarious situation. It always is.
We're so close to getting rid of Hamas and getting rid of these Islamist trends that exist amongst the Palestinians.
Much as we've said regarding Milikowski Netanyahu, the goal, much like our economic system driven by the war machine, very much like the Roman Empire, the Ottoman Empire, and even the British Empire, over an overt military expansion is ultimately what leads to the collapse of the empire. We are at that stage now in what you would be considered, Jen, the hog stage of overexpansion?
Yes, pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered, and we are definitely the hog of the universe. And there was a video that I watched recently that explained there are 7 stages to decline of empire, and this person examined Spanish Empire, British Empire, even Soviet Union, and then us. And when you look at all the similarities, it's very cyclical. And we are currently in stage 5 of decline of empire. And what stage 6 is loss of global currency. And that is coming. That is going to happen. And I think that's one of those things that doesn't get discussed in the regular universe, and people are going to be very ill prepared. But that will happen. Inevitably.
If you're enjoying this conversation so far, before we bring in our esteemed guest, please make sure that you head over to patreon.com/revolutionary change. For as little as $5 a month, you can become a supporter of our small but mighty and growing channel. We just passed 82,000 subscribers.
Ooh.
It's amazing how just this previous show we were at 81. So Jen, a little closer to that silver plaque.
Closer to, but I wanted to tell you, so that last clip we put up definitely had to have been suppressed. Like something so went wrong with that number on that. I was just wondering, and then something totally changed in the studio.
So we get bouts of suppression on the regular, as everybody knows, because if there's one thing that is very consistent about our channel is that people who discover it love it. And we know that in general, people that are watching our clips are watching them because they want to watch them, not because it's being thrown in their face because we somehow hit the algorithm. And then when we did a clip regarding regime change in Venezuela, probably using the term regime change didn't sit very well with the algorithm. So they automatically kick that down and don't want us to talk about it.
There it is.
Just yeah, we got to get a little bit more creative.
I was going to say, you and I are just sort of like put it out there people, and we need to be a lot more
subtle.
Careful. Yeah.
Maybe be a little subtle. Piano Man, thank you for the $10 super sticker. Really appreciate your support and being here as always. Jim Talib with the $5, always appreciated. Love seeing you on the regular. Daniel Huang, thank you so much for becoming a YouTube member. Really appreciate you being here.
That's Felix.
That is Felix?
It kind of looked like Felix. Yeah. You know Felix the cat?
Yes, I know Felix the cat. I'm not that illiterate in that respect. Teresa, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for the $10 sticker. Mark J with the $3 super chat. Thank you, Peter and Jen. You are awesome. You are awesome for continuing.
You're awesome.
Our channel. Yes. Well, again, what channel are we if we don't have amazing supporters? It's the only reason we're able to grow. Cheeto with the $5. Thank you for covering Sudan and Sami Hamdi. I believe he was on the way to give a talk for CARE in Florida and get abducted at SFO. You know, when Jen ran for Congress, we had the pleasure of being at multiple CARE events. I got to tell you, Jen, they definitely were cooking up some terrorist type activity at the events. You know, like raising money for children who are being mass murdered. Very, very dangerous people, I got to tell you. Anytime the State
calculated.
Anytime the State Department or the Mossad, whoever is in charge of the PR, is putting out the message, stay away from CARE, that means support CARE. At least you know for sure that if this is an organization that the powers that be do not want you supporting, then it is a pretty safe bet that you are in good shape giving them your support.
Yeah.
And of course, you can also, since we are on the topic of supporting us, and of course we do have our Patreon, what we also have is our PAC, the Revolutionary Change PAC. And while we appreciate any and all support that comes directly to our channel, you can also, beat me to the punch, Jen. I can't reaching out on you on that one. But make sure that you go over and at least check out the website for Revolutionary Change PAC so you get an idea of exactly what it's all about, the few candidates that we are supporting today, and how you can also protect your identity if need be, if you are choosing to make a contribution.
You know, that's not on the, like, the website doesn't have anything about our slate. The slate was something that was in that prospectus.
Okay.
That doesn't exist on the website. The website is literally a launch page at this point. But yes, that is what it is. So yes. So yeah, that was only in the digital thing.
You know, when we have guests on our channel, and I've been, as I'm sure you have as well, been paying attention to Mia Marie. And one of the things that Conservative Inc. has generally done very well, as we pointed out, is the ability to cross-pollinate even with people that they don't necessarily agree with, hence the big crossover between Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson. What we have spoken about at great length when it comes to trying to build sustainable networks with people that are on the same page, that are trying to fight on the side of justice. We don't see it nearly as much as we should. And so when I came across Mia's work, which has been exceptional to say the least, and she can confirm for us, I'm not 100% sure if she is Palestinian or not, but I know for certain that she is behind fighting on the side of justice, not just for the Palestinian people, but for global justice in general. And so without further
ado, get to the bottom of that Palestinian question. We're going to get to the bottom of that.
Well, you do not have on, you have your get up this evening, but generally speaking,
I'm trying to be Halloweenish. I'm
yes,
working, you know, I mean, I'm trying to be as festive as possible. I don't have kids at home now. We probably won't have trick-or-treaters. I mean, I don't get opportunities. So,
well,
yeah.
you could always, but the keffiyeh always goes with any outfit that makes sense.
I know. I have my keffiyeh. I know. But I'm all right. I'm trying to, well, I mean, I guess I could be method, but let's just bring her in. Bring her in.
Mia Marie, welcome to Revolutionary Change.
Hi. Thank you so much. Is my mic working?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I love the Miss Rachel costume. I'm
Thank you.
I saw you. I was like, oh my God, are we talking about Miss Rachel today?
We can always talk about Miss
Rachel. Always talk about Miss Rachel.
She actually just followed me and I was so excited. I was like, what? No way.
You're now the second guest we've had who is being followed by Miss Rachel, but yet I'm not being followed by Miss Rachel.
Maybe she'll
so
see.
Incredible.
Here's what's going to happen. We're going to make a short clip. Mia's going to see it on Instagram. She'll share it. Miss Rachel will see you in her outfit. And oh my God.
I will tag Miss Rachel. I'll be like, Miss Rachel, you please need to go follow this podcast.
If you want to get her attention,
yes. So
a clip of you dressed up as her and knowing that you're fighting for the Palestinian people, that there's a good chance she might actually see it.
You know, I'm pretty sure it'll be a popular costume this year. I just don't know in which social circles that will be.
Fair enough.
Like, will it be at the kids' parties or will it be at the adult parties?
6 of one, half a dozen of the other at this point. Mia, how did you become very active on Instagram? Obviously, Gaza is the central focus for all three of us. and sort of you want to call it your origin story. You've obviously done a great job building a platform and drawing attention to these key stories. So what was the impetus for you to make this a big part of your life?
Well, I initially started with privacy information. So I did a lot of research. I read the USA Freedom Act. I researched the Patriot Act. And after October 7th, I realized that a lot of this surveillance technology was actually coming from Israel. And a lot of the policies for mass surveillance are actually coming from AIPAC and the Israeli lobby. And I was like, holy shit. But that wasn't the reason why I got so connected to the Palestinian cause. Was now the Google searches, like if you look for, the children's military detention centers and all of like the UN reports on the violations that are happening in the occupied Palestinian territories, you won't find those things anymore. But I was reading article after article of things that they would do to children. I was watching documentaries where children were saying that they were hung like to crosses, electrocuted, had dogs, attacking them. And it was just horrific. I mean, it was stuff that you see on like horror movies and stuff. I didn't think this shit was real. So after October 7th, I was like, oh my God, how could somebody do that to the Jewish people and whatnot? And then my mind was just blown. I knew nothing about the occupation prior to October 7th. So it was really a kind of turnaround for me. Like I had been so sheltered, and I felt so guilty for not paying attention sooner. And I feel like there's a lot of people who are in my position that had no idea that now we're suddenly awake, because these things are also starting to hit home. We realize that the Israeli lobby pays our congressmen to vote in policies that are against the American people. So like everybody needs to understand that this affects you either directly or indirectly.
Couldn't have said it better. Jen, your thoughts?
I mean, look, everybody knows somebody at least that has been woken to this, at least this particular situation in the past couple of years. And it's important, and it's important for everybody on their particular platform with their particular friend group and whatever their demographic is to convey the message. So I don't care how people get to the right side of history. I really don't. Like, it's a good thing that you got it and that you understand like all this stuff is connected now. It's all connected.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for me, I've always been on the side of justice, but this takes it to a whole other level, because for both of us respectively, Jen comes from a Zionist background. I grew up amongst Zionists on one side of my family, and I'm also in a line of work where they are there, and I have to make very deliberate decisions about who I break bread with, and I think that that's becoming sort of the norm now. We have seen, how far some people are willing to go in as far as whether or not we are going to economically sanction Israel out of existence. It can't be done just by us, because our country is simply not in a position to control the levers of power, financially speaking. But it does seem that that's becoming a big topic around the world right now. And I assume that you're familiar with what's happened in Turkey and what they just decided to do regarding how they cut off a substantial portion. I guess there's steel appears to be a very big industry in Israel, and as it is as well as in Turkey. And now, as I've been saying all along, the only way we're getting out of this is if we basically break them economically. There is no other way. Money and power is the only thing anybody ever understands.
It's BDS. It's BDS. Yeah. That's what is needed globally, right? That's what
exactly. I completely agree. Yes, we have to cut off the money, and we have to cut off the weapons supply to them.
This is one instance. So apparently, and I have suspicions about anything involving, because Turkey is one of those places, and this is a Eurasian thing. It really does. It's on both sides often of a conflict, right? Like there's a connection between them in multiple sides of one conflict. So it's always hard to know. So you might be doing this, but then you're also giving them something under, you know what I mean? Even because you'll have countries that'll say, oh yes, we recognize the state of Palestine, but yet they're still sending money and weapons to Ziohel. So I don't know if this is a symbolic thing, but it's still, I like that it's happening. You know, I'm just saying, I want to preface it with, I don't know how much, real, hardiness this has.
Right.
Well,
and then a lot of countries seem to be making promises about like, oh, we're thinking about sanctioning Israel, or we may cut off weapon supply. And then later on, we find out that a shipment has been delivered to Israel since then. And everybody's like, wait a minute, what's going on here? So we're having a world stage where none of the leaders have any credibility. This is a very dangerous place for everybody to breathe.
Okay, so what's going on is somebody's saying what's going on with Turkey and Iran. I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about with that. But this is very encouraging.
Well, one of the things that we've noticed, and Mia, where in the States are you located?
I'm actually in San Diego.
Okay.
Oh, and by the way, I know you had the am I Palestinian question. No, I'm actually not Palestinian. I'm Mexican and Italian.
Oh, Mexican Italian. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like San Diego.
All it makes me think about is what I want for dinner. Seriously, that's all that just happened now when you just said that.
Tacos.
No, I could go Italian or I could go Mexican. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I will say this, having gotten there finally for the first time back in the spring, Old Town, excellent. Great place to visit if you guys are ever in San Diego. The food there is exceptional. And great historic sites as well. I like that.
Yeah, it's good to visit. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so one of the things that we've noticed, probably not as bad in California overall, although in Los Angeles and probably parts of San Francisco, it's obvious because of the sizable Jewish population that's not in San Diego per se, but obviously in Los Angeles. They make a very big deal about any attempts at BDS legislation. Like, in fact, that more than anything else is what drives people insane. And the dreaded Congresswoman that Jen ran for office against, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, is at the forefront of pushing anti-BDS legislation.
Oh, yeah.
And so when something like this happens, there's a reason why they push that legislation, because this is Israel's weak point. If you start going for the throat when it comes to their financial resources, like a steel and scrap metal business that Turkey basically cut off their air supply and choked them out of business, that's real power. And that's how we can get them to bend the knee.
The other thing I would encourage people to do is to check to see where you live and see if there's a sister city with where you live. I just found out that San Diego has a sister city with Israel proper in one of the kibbutzes. And I had no idea. And so I guess, and then I also found out that Rachel Corrie, where she was originally from, she was trying to get a sister city with a Palestinian city. And this was before she was murdered. And so it would be really interesting. Me and a few people have kind of thrown around the idea of, pushing for a sister city in Palestine, and help funding them with, whatever they need, the hospitals, rebuilding, education. And, it's not necessarily saying like, oh, let's cut off our sister city with Israel because, they have a huge mayhem with that, which I would love if that happened. But how can you argue that we shouldn't be assisting Palestinians as well? Hey, if we're helping out Israelis, it's only fair if we help out Palestinians. That's not anti-Semitic to say that.
Are you sure it isn't? I'm just...
in my heart, helping out these children that have been having to live in caves essentially because their homes are demolished and they don't have access to their schools. A lot of times I've seen so many videos of there's a regular practice of the IOF tear gassing schools because they're trying to discourage Palestinian children from making it to their schools. It's just disgusting.
That doesn't surprise me. That's the kind of stuff that's been happening in the West Bank pretty continuously since 67. But as we knew, when this quote unquote, and I am very loath to use the term ceasefire because as I'm going to say, we knew that not only would it not be real, but you wouldn't call stopping a genocide a ceasefire, just you wouldn't call it that. But Ziohel's broken it like 140 something times already, or whatever it is, some ridiculous number, because of course they did. But it's actually the past few days have been ramped up again at a level like was in the very beginning.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. And the videos that are coming out from that are just horrendous. They're saying, oh, well, there was two main reasons. They said that we're not getting the bodies of our hostages back. Yet Hamas has been putting out statements on a regular basis like, hey, we're not able to get equipment in to get underneath the rubble. And they had said from the start, like, we are not going to be able to get everybody back in the timely manner that you guys would like. We don't have access to these areas. And then what was the other thing? As far as disarmament, they were saying that they are willing to give up power to another faction, but they weren't going to necessarily disarm like right away. So that was kind of like both of them have. The Israelis are having expectations that the Hamas was already saying like, hey, this is what I'm agreeing to. And the United States was like, okay, cool, we'll do that. And the Israelis are like, no, that's not what we want. So there's three parties in here that are fighting over this, but yet Israel is still allowed to bomb. So
Mia, can I just ask you, have you ever been to Ziohel?
Beverly Hills?
No. Have you ever been? I'm trying.
That is Ziohel. That's a great response, by the way.
No. Have you ever been? I call Israel Ziohel.
No, I've never been there. And I love the statement when they say like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. You've never been to Israel.
Well, that's why I'm mocking that guy. What's his name, Peter, that did that? You cannot discuss it if you have not been. What was his name? Douglas Murray.
Douglas Murray. Doug Murray.
That's what I was trying to do. Yeah, he was. That's what he was saying about somebody commenting on what was going on is that, and that's how he sounded. But yeah, the best response for that too is, I've also never been to Germany or Poland, but yeah, I will happily condemn the Nazis. I'll happily condemn the Holocaust. I don't have to have gone somewhere in order to know that the atrocities are wrong, to know that starving children is inappropriate, that you shouldn't cut off supplies to an entire population of people. It's wrong. Of course. No, I actually have been, just because I was on a Zio brainwashing tour in high school, based on just where I come from. So I have been, and I still feel exactly as disgusted, if not more so, just based on knowing that I participated in ethnic cleansing, unknowingly was used as a tool in ethnic cleansing.
Did it change your perception on things after you came back from there?
No, because when I was there, it was 1987, and it was before there were any visible signs of apartheid. So there was no wall, there were no separate highways yet. It wasn't, that stuff happened after the first Intifada, which was the fall, literally after I left. So when I was there, there was no reason to question. Like, we didn't see anything. We weren't shown anything that would have us question, and it wasn't visible. So I didn't know, and therefore participated in like planting trees and other ridiculous nonsense in places that we should not have been.
According to Israeli Business Daily calculists, the Ashdod-based Shaul Guetta company, which specializes in collecting, sorting, crushing, and selling scrap metal to foreign markets, was heavily reliant on exports to Turkey, which accounted for 70% of its sales. As reported, the company's revenue fell sharply from 200 million shekels in 2022 to roughly 35 million shekels in the first half of this year, leaving it with total debts of around 105 million shekels. Shaul Guetta's largest creditor, the International, filed for 18 million shekels in court while other creditors, including Bank Hapoleum, Jen, Mercantile Bank, Mizrahi Tefahat Bank, and non-banking credit firms Max, SR Accord, and Ampla each owed millions. So the Beersheba District Court accepted a petition by Israel International Bank and appointed attorney Doron Tishman as trustee. He will determine whether the company will be liquidated or restructured. How about collapse it? That is the only language that they understand. The only reason why they have any power that they have today is money and power, period. People hate Israel. It's with like the burning of 1,000 suns. Is that how you say it, Jen?
I say I hate it with the passion of 1,000 burning suns. Yes.
So when Jen asked, have you been to Ziohel instead of Israel? You said, oh, but you mean Beverly Hills?
That's kind of telling, actually, right? That's telling.
We did. Yeah, we covered the story of the Beverly Hills School Board and the insanity of what they were doing. And it's, again, the one thing we try to make very clear is that when it comes to the Jewish population in this country that is Zionist, it is very much along class lines. People who live in the very Jewish enclaves in Southern California, Beverly Hills, Bel Air, Sherman Oaks, places of that nature, are very affluent, and they're not working class by any stretch. And there are a lot of Jewish people in this country who want nothing to do with this, have been very adamant about such. And they typically don't live in those places. So I don't know what you've seen being in San Diego, but I would imagine that you probably have noticed to some degree that so much of the people, especially now, that espouse undying love and support for Israel are definitely coming at it from a very comfortable place in life.
Yeah, I've never really seen people who are struggling really support Israel. The people who understand food insecurity, housing insecurity, are the people who kind of are anti-ICE, are people who are standing on the front lines with us, you know, who side with people who suffer from occupation. And this also goes with like also the very religious groups too. I feel like the very religious population, I've never been extremely religious, so I don't understand that type of, I guess they call it like in my religion, the Catholic guilt. I've never really had to deal with much of that, but there's a lot of people who were exposed to that. So anybody who's probably like middle class are probably from the religious sector. Everybody from the upper class is, you know, they're living in their own little worlds.
All right. So I just had a great thought in my head. So you're talking about Catholic guilt, right? So is it from the Mexican side or the Italian side?
Oh my God. It's like, a double whammy right there.
I'm picturing a family dinner in either case scenario, and you could really go in either direction. Like I could see it going either way.
Mexican Catholic, if you disrespect, you disrespect your abuela, for example, she'll light the candles and hold the rosary at the same time. Like it's a very sacred thing. Now, I'm not saying that the Italian grandmother won't do the same.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's like, do you want the belt or the wooden spoon? Like, well, shit, this is a lose-lose situation for me, you know?
One thing that I think is interesting that Jen brings up all the time is the lack of culture in the United States. Oh. Now, when you think about the most desirable places to visit in this country, you happen to live in one of them. And one thing that's very unique about San Diego is that it is essentially a Mexican colony that we turned into an American colony. Mm-hmm. And so I always find it interesting. People love San Diego. They love their culture, cuisine. But it does seem to me that people like to bitch and moan about whether or not everyone who lives in San Diego speaks English. And this whole concept of what is really American culture versus what is taken from somebody else and then it's called ours. We see Israel do it all the time, especially with their language, their cuisine. It's always stolen from somebody else. Yeah. So I kind of understand the upper class alignment between the Israel-US connection. And I would imagine that in San Diego, you probably see the disrespect of Mexican culture, even though it is essentially a Mexican region that we have called our own. Your thoughts on that?
Oh, I mean, they do the exact same thing. I mean, Israel essentially is a baby America in the Middle East. You know, they are the manifest destiny in the Middle East. You know, they are colonizing a place, and they're saying that, you know, they have the right to do this. I have arguments with people in the United States, like with European Americans, and saying like, hey, you know, you're not technically native to this land. So telling Latino Americans, which are essentially Native Americans that have been colonized by the Spanish, for us to go back to where we came from based on a drawn line, you know, it's insane. And so usually the end of that argument goes, well, you lost the war. And then in Israel, for them, it's like, well, God gave it to us. It's kind of like it's two different sentences, but they're coming to the same conclusion, which is tough shit. But it's still colonization. It is still actively dispossessing the indigenous population, and they benefit from that. And so they uphold each other's ideals because that's what they have in common.
I lived in San Antonio for 6 years. And one of the things that I think is similar is that there are many people and families that have been there for generations since before it was a state, right? And so I knew people from law school whose great-grandparents and their grandparents, like this is just, they lived there before it was Texas. It wasn't Texas, right? And so whenever I would hear people with that English-only crap, it's very, it's just extremely racist, because why is it inherently that we're English? They lived here before this was a state, right? Like, what is American? What does that mean? Because I would suggest that English is from England, and Spanish and the Mexicans that were speaking that before Texas was Texas, that was the language of this land, was that Spanish. So what's American? That's what bothers me.
Well, you know, if you go to places like Arizona, there is a church there. When the indigenous tribe of the Tohono O'odham, when the Spaniards came and had their churches there, you can see like the indigenous like symbolism inside the Catholic churches. And it's just really interesting to kind of see like how these two cultures kind of blended together. And a lot of the natives, they still carry that, you know, the very Catholic culture. They just recently had their pilgrimage where they will walk from Arizona all the way down to Sonora to go to a church down there as well. And so there are those blends of cultures, but, you know, in my ideal perfect world, you know, Mexico would be our biggest ally. You know, they're right next door. There's so many blends of people, you know, coming in and out, like trade should be free. Why is Israel our biggest ally? You know, and then it should be 2 languages. Like, why can't we have 2 languages in our schools? Learn English and Spanish.
Well,
It'd be a global benefit for everybody. America is the only place in the world where it's like, oh, you know, only speak 1 language. It's offensive if you know 2 languages.
This
It's
is also
shameful. We've talked about that multiple times. It's shameful. It's embarrassing.
It's also one of the worst realizations about why we hate other cultures, is because being bilingual, I think it's, what percentage of this population is bilingual, Jim? 5%?
In this country?
Yeah, 5%. Is it even high? Is it even that
You
high?
mean people that are just like people born in this country that are just from
speak
here,
another
that aren't
language,
raised in Spanish households?
Correct. It's
Everybody, they speak 1 language.
Yeah.
Our education system doesn't facilitate multilingual learning. It just doesn't.
No,
For
and
people that come here that already have it at home, maybe, you know, they you know, but no. When you come from other countries, they're automatically being taught 2 languages. Everywhere is like this.
and I also
Exactly.
Yeah. And I also want to point out that when you think about even the elites that sit in the high places that like to complain about why is it that these people don't like us, or what is, again, there is a level of disconnect in particular that comes from people that are never told no. And Zionists in particular are people that, especially if they're Jewish Zionists, are never, ever told anything other than you are special, you are chosen, you are unique. And if you do not adhere to our will, then we will rain holy hell, no pun intended, on all of you. And so I'm going to play a clip of 2 people. Now, you probably are not too familiar with this place, but for those that know anything about where the Zionists like to go and stand on their soapboxes in New York City, the 92nd Y on the Upper East Side of Manhattan happens to be one of the most common places that they like to go and host their events. This is where Jerry Seinfeld and these other people will show up and do their shtick. And so this Zio-Nazi, James Kirchick, had a thing or two to say about a place that you're probably pretty familiar with, Hollywood, California. So here's what he had to say.
I think the mainstream media has a pro-Zionist bias. Elite higher education, secular madrasas. Does anyone think that elite higher education has a pro-Zionist bias?
The people who teach it and the universities that fund it, like UCLA and USC and Pepperdine and places like that, places like NYU, Fordham, Columbia University. You see, the people who run these places that have control over the money and power, they support the Zio state. But the student body generally doesn't. How they speak it from that perspective, still, to me, well, first of all, it's deliberate.
Who's this guy?
So James Kirchick is just, take a guess, Jen. He looks exactly like you would think
He looks like he's just a Zio mouthpiece. All right, continue.
That's exactly what he is. We'll continue.
Is he a tech bro?
I don't think he's that intelligent.
Hey, look at Hollywood. 50 years ago, Vanessa Redgrave could get up and give an Academy Award acceptance speech and attack Zionist hoodlums. Her words, protesting her outside. And what happened? The great director Paddy Chayefsky got up and he rebuked her and he said he was tired of people exploiting the Academy Awards for the propagation of their own personal political propaganda. And he received a standing ovation for saying that.
No, he didn't. And Vanessa Redgrave's Oscar acceptance speech, if you haven't seen it, is probably still to this day one of the most ballsy, on the mark acceptance speeches ever. I know people reference Michael Moore's acceptance speech with Bowling for Columbine, or was it, or I don't know if it was Fahrenheit 9/11, I believe. Either way, they don't come along too often. And so what he's saying right now, of course, which is what Zionists tend to do, is a form of revisionist history about what actually happened.
What happens now, today? 2 years ago, a Jewish film director who directed a movie about Auschwitz gets up there accepting an award and says that Auschwitz is being hijacked by Israel to oppress Palestinians. And Steven Spielberg says nothing at that same event. Okay? So Hollywood, I would also say, is anti-Zionist. You have to think about these other institutions that the left controls. It's not just the Democratic Party. I would say politics and the Democratic Party are the least thing. I worry about them the least for the reasons that Kathy
That's the only
said,
thing I agree with.
great.
I'd
Probably,
worry about them the
yeah.
least too, but I assure you the left and the Democrats are two different things. Also, it's hilarious to me that this is the perspective that, like, what right-wing nonsense thing is this?
Think about how much your message doesn't resonate anymore when you feel that you have to attack Hollywood for not being pro-Israel enough.
Exactly.
When was this video?
Last week or this week?
Okay, so it was recent.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? Like, there's the total, that's why I'm saying people really live in information bubbles, because this guy, he might not really believe what he's saying. I don't know. But if he does, he lives in an information silo. So he's only hearing the team that he wants to hear.
I don't even know if it's necessarily an information silo. It's that they truly conduct themselves as above reproach. They see themselves as cultural elite. He's certainly not a physical elite.
No, but I don't know how you would how you would see Hollywood as not being Zio when it's always been completely Zio. So that's
not Zio enough for them.
Right. That's
it needs
the
to
level
be
of
so
work.
extreme, which is crazy. Any sort of like minor criticism or even just saying like children shouldn't be starved to death, Miss Rachel, is absolutely anti-Semitic to them. You know, it's insane like how violent they want the rest of the world to be, because as they're being exposed for how deranged they are, it's starting to make them feel some type of way. You know, they feel seen, you know, and they don't like the level of criticism of their violence. They want everybody else to be on board with it. Like, how dare you not be violent with us? What is wrong with you? You anti-Semitic?
We've been very clear since Charlie's assassination. Proof positive. You can never be pro-Israel enough. There is no such thing. You can never go far enough.
Can I mention something on the Charlie Kirk thing?
Sure.
Everybody was going towards, the Israel thing. I didn't really follow that too much. I never really watched Charlie Kirk. So when he passed away, I was like, oh, well, that's a politically motivated assassination for sure. But, I wasn't like feeling one way or another because I didn't really, know or follow the guy. But one thing I did notice was up until that point, there was some propaganda in the media talking about wanting to take away gun rights from transgender people. And then when they said that the shooter was potentially transgender and this and that, I'm like, Republicans are going to start going after gun rights. And they're going to do it slowly. They're going to say, hey, let's get other Republicans on board with taking away rights against these certain people. And then it's going to go into these certain people, and then the leftists, and then the Democrats, and then whoever, but they're slowly chopping away at that Second Amendment right. And they were using the Charlie Kirk assassination to do it. That's just my personal opinion. Yeah.
Well, if you take a look at some of the clips we've put out there, you will see that that is just a front for what this is all about, which is the marriage that has existed since 1948 and took a whole other level of insanity, which in my opinion had to do with the assassination of our president in 1963, and then the USS Liberty attack in 1967, which was a real preempt to what was going on in Vietnam. To me, Israel has been at the center of almost every bad thing that has continued to sink the United States into its inevitable empire collapse as a result. As you like to say, Jen, we're Israel, they are us.
Yeah, it's the same.
We'll finish it up.
Democrats fighting for Israel, obviously, but in these other very influential the art world, the art world is totally anti-Zionist.
What does that tell
October,
you? Say no more. Say no more. Like, that's all you need to know about any given topic. The artists are not with, if the artists aren't with you, you're on the wrong side of history.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Seventh, practically every, artistic organization in this country put out statements attacking Israel. Those are all left-wing institutions.
Left-wing. Yes. You know what? All artists are left-wing. All artists are what kind of asinine thing is that? But, there's just the total straw man crap that people like that put out. But yeah, I would say in general, if you're on the opposite side from the artists, and I mean the real artists, you're wrong.
If you think that Kerchik is bad, does everybody remember Batya Ungar Sargon?
No, who is? Why do you make me watch these things? It's terrible. They're such crap. Like, do we need to watch another Zio?
I'm an equal opportunist for men and women to be Zionist scum.
To John Fetterman himself, his Zionism puts him out of step with the rest of his party, which, I'm sorry, only 13% stand with Israelis against the Palestinians.
Now.
Listen to what she just said. That's a slip of the tongue. A total slip of the tongue. Let's play it one more time just in case you missed it.
I'm sorry, only 13% stand with Israelis against the Palestinians.
I thought it was Hamas.
Well,
it's actually the Palestinians.
She slipped on that, yeah.
Did it? No correction, nothing.
No.
So if you're questioning whether or not this is a genocidal, psychopathic state that needs to be, what, Jen?
Lanced like a boil off of humanity.
Here's another example of why that must happen.
This is a party whose grassroots is right now captured by the left. And so Zionism does not have a future in the American left.
Yes.
The Democratic Party's relationship with Zionism depends on whether it's willing to repudiate that far left. And the thing that makes this so appalling is that Jews built the left in this country. We built the labor movement. We broke the New Deal. 70% of the lawyers who worked on civil rights cases were Jews. We've been at the forefront of every liberal and leftist issue in this country.
And yet, she doesn't see the connection to this.
Right. Where's the Venn diagram? Like, does she need one drawn for her? Like,
it's amazing, like the disconnect. So, okay, so Jews have been on the forefront of those things over time, and yet they're with the Palestinians. What does that tell you? Like, that's the whole point.
We're all wrong. All of us are wrong. She's right.
It's like she's like, it was the same as him. It's like, yes, the artists are not with you. The Jews are not all with you. Maybe that's a sign.
They still can't see, or they refuse to see, but this is also the Zionist ideology. You cannot separate Zionism from Judaism. The second you do that, it's the end of your ideology. That's why they cling so tightly to the talking point that Zionism is Judaism. It's the only thing they have, because this is why I think that Christian Zionism is going to crack first before Jewish Zionism does.
And it has been. And that's actually been a very scary place that I kind of dabbled in. In the beginning of the year, me and my teams were discussing, how to kind of do outreach to churches and, discuss this in like a Christian sense and talk to Christian Zionists and Republicans about Zionism and why it's not good for anybody. And then as soon as, the narrative started changing in the Republican spaces, we were like, wait a second, these people are actually genuine Nazis. Maybe we don't want them to sit with us at our table, And it was actually, it's pretty scary, like to see some people where they made some really good anti-Zionist videos, and then they come out with some genuine hateful stuff. Like Marjorie Taylor Greene is still Marjorie Taylor Greene, regardless if she hates Israel or not. And so,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
I'm moving to her district, so I know exactly who she is.
I think that this is why when I do my solo show on Saturdays, I'm very clear about, it's one thing if the message you're getting about anti-Zionism is coming from Tucker Carlson. It's another thing entirely if it's coming from Nick Fuentes. You have to be very clear about who you are willing to break bread with. Nick Fuentes does not hide the fact that he's a white nationalist. He's actually very proud of it. And then you hear language from other people like Dan Bilzerian, for example, who says it's a Jew problem and not a Zio-Jew problem. And it's like, if you're not going to be politically nuanced, then you're deliberately trying to get people hurt.
Right. And so I think these Zionists coming out and really just bashing the Democratic Party, I think it's a way to just stroke the backs of the Republican Party, because they know they're losing the Republican votes as well.
Oh, yeah. I still maintain that America First libertarianism, which is anti-Israel all the way, is eventually going to take over the GOP. And when that happens, knowing the Democratic Party and knowing how they do business, they are going to welcome all of the Zios with open arms. Why? First and foremost, because of their money. The money above everything else, which is what floats that fake frickin' party to begin with, is their top priority. They will come up with excuses. We have to stop the Republicans, et cetera, and they'll figure out a way, or their party will die, which hopefully it will.
Their party's going to die. But, I want to say that my experience being in South Florida, which is Zio Central, it really is. It's Zio Central, and it is definitely Jewish Zio Central. The majority of the Zionists that are like really the people that's what they vote on, that's their most important issue, those Jews, they've always been Republicans. They've always been Republicans. Growing up, like the people, like my family, my parents were definitely Democrats. Most of my friends' parents were Democrats, but the people whose parents were about Israel, they all voted Republican. So it was even within a fairly similar social class, economic class of people, the more Zionist people have tended to be Republican, not Democrat. I'm just saying.
Mia, if you have an opportunity, if you're not familiar with Punch Up Pod, they're based out of
Hi, Lila.
yeah, they're based out of SoCal. Definitely check them out if you get a chance.
They
Oh,
go live after us tonight.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll check them out. One thing I wanted to say about the Zio, Democratic Republican, everything that they're doing, this talking, this and that, it really doesn't matter, because all that matters is the money. And when it comes down to it, AIPAC splits the amount of donations evenly between the Democrats and the Republicans. So they can, all of this is just, it's digital foreplay for everybody to just watch and argue amongst each other and move away from the fact that money is still being reallocated from the American people to settlements in the West Bank and bombing children in Gaza. It's all going to the same place. They don't care. This is just show.
We'll finish it up.
The absolute chutzpah of saying, you're not welcome here. You know what it reminds me of? When they banned smoking in bars. I was a smoker, and I was so outraged. I was like, if there's going to be a turf war over this, surely the smokers should have gotten the bars, okay? And you can so easily imagine a counterfactual in which the left in America said, wait a minute. We can't oppose Zionism because we would lose our beloved Jews who have been there with us at the forefront every minute that we built this movement. We have to find a way to make sure that Zionists still feel welcome. We could never do that to them. And they didn't do that. They did the opposite.
No, you stupid bitch. How it works is the left, the real left, we reject Zionism outright. Also, we're generally not capitalists. So there's a whole variety of just ignoramus in what that woman just spewed.
That woe is me bullshit. Why don't you like us for just killing a few people?
But to think that the left, should somehow have a tent big enough for you when you are diametrically opposed to everything that the actual left stands for. But what's interesting is she's referring to the Democratic Party, which is hilarious to me because they're not the left. They will have you with open arms. They send the money. They just say, we don't like AIPAC, some of us, but we'll still sign the bill, send all the money.
Yeah, exactly. Killing kids is wrong. We shouldn't do that. We'll condemn it, but we won't call it a genocide. Right. That's what they do.
Of course. So that doesn't, right. That's so the fact that, right, that the Dems aren't, that's why the Dems are going away, because they don't offer anything different than the Republicans. Their numbers are down. I'm telling you guys, they're new Coke. We don't need them.
No, yeah, I've been Green Party recently. Butch Ware, he is, that was Jill Stein's vice president. So he's running for governor out here in California. Shout out to
we're aware. Guys,
California.
This is our PAC. He is one of our candidates.
If you haven't checked out Revolutionary Change PAC, give it a look. We have ceased communication directly with Mr. Ware.
We can't talk to them because we're a super PAC.
Although if you would like, Mia, we have had Mr. Ware on our channel on at least, I think, 3 occasions, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So we've had some pretty good conversations with Butch. I think, especially with Katie Zio Porter in Orange County, falling apart at the seams because she's such a nasty individual. It's going to create some type of an opening, and I think a lot of people are looking for something else. And if Butch has a decent chunk of cash to at least run a reasonable statewide race, he's going to be very appealing to a lot of people. And I could see a case where he could potentially finish in the top 2.
And there's Prop 50 in California right now where we're actually going to be voting to redistrict California. And everybody's so mad about it because they're like, oh, you guys are just cheating, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, this is evening out the playing field because you were doing this in red states. And, California just wants to make sure that, we're playing on the same level as you. You guys always just want a head start and we're just not going to let you have one. And so I think that redistricting is going to be really interesting for Butch Ware as well.
Sure. I got news for you. They do it in every state. Depending on who the state legislature is and who's in control, they do it in New York. They do it in Illinois. They do it in Virginia. And the red states do it too, as they've done in Texas and in Florida. It is still a neoliberal national media circuit. So anytime the GOP does it, and especially if it's an anti-Trump message, it's the one they're going to focus on. And when Gavin Newsom chooses to do it, then it's okay because the blue team's doing it, so that makes it okay. In the end, these are two sides of the same corporate-owned genocidal Israel-supporting coin. I actually think that liberals and Democrats at large are worse than conservatives in this country because they are more trusted to do the right thing by the general public that still hasn't seen through this yet.
But I think people do because their numbers are down everywhere. Their numbers are down everywhere. Nobody is registering as Democrats. Nobody new is registering as Democrats. When our state Dems were out registering voters, because that's all they could seem to muddle up the energy to do is go register voters, they were registering more Republicans than Democrats. So the Democratic Party of Florida had a big initiative of registering voters, and they registered more Republicans than Democrats in our state.
What I also thought was interesting was when they did the No Kings rally, and we covered what it was like with anybody with a Palestinian flag showing up, whether in Los Angeles, whether in DC, whether in South Florida. Trust me when I tell you, if you didn't see it, they didn't like that very much. This isn't about Palestine. This isn't about, oh, it's not.
It's just about Trump.
Actually, it is. You just don't see it that way.
I went and I stood with my Palestinian team because I got divided up. I'm always divided here in San Diego between the anti-ICE teams and the pro-Palestinian teams. And so there's this one banner that has this Israeli flag on it that one of our teams has, and it says terrorist right in the middle, and people are so offended by it. And so it's really exciting for me. I'm like, I'm going to go stand with them. And then I had this huge poster about Israeli crimes against Palestinian children. And it was like a giant, like, you know, one of those science fair boards. And it had a bunch of like news articles and like statistics and stuff on there. And so people would come by because they were so offended by the terrorist flag. And then they would read the poster that was, you know, that I had created behind it. And so if anybody wanted to say anything that was really offensive, it was kind of inappropriate to do so with all the facts of the trauma that Palestinian children are going through. So it was a nice way to get people's attention and then to educate them at the same time. You know, like, unfortunately, we had to do it in a way where, you know, it might cause some people to be offended, but hey, you know, this is the reality of the situation, and your feelings don't matter when it comes to these children not having anything to eat or getting scabies or being sexually assaulted in an Israeli detention center.
Yeah, I don't care about if anything offends anybody. People, quite honestly, should be offended. I'm offended daily by what I see. So if people's feelings are hurt by stuff, good. They should be.
You know, I've often said that you do not have the right to be comfortable.
No.
You don't.
No.
And so when so many people are saying, I don't feel safe or I don't feel comfortable, you do not have the right to that. To live in the United States of America in a safe and clean community is a privilege. In fact, it is such a privilege that it is on a microcosm of places around the world, especially in the global South, where they really don't exist. Not in many places. So when you have this advantage, and a lot of it comes from the fact that we are an empire, and you think that you can sit in one of, if not the richest community in the entire country and bitch and complain about how people don't love Israel enough, that's real privilege.
Right.
That's insane privilege. And the craziest part about it, Mia, they don't think they're privileged. They think they're
victims. Yeah.
Victims. Everybody's out to get us. Jen, before Mia goes, do you want to just briefly tell her your experience growing up with Sheryl Sandberg?
I mean, are you familiar with Sheryl?
Mm-mm.
See, that's the thing. Why, Peter? No, she's somebody who is oligarch adjacent, who I grew up with down here.
I wouldn't call her adjacent.
She is one of the people that helped promote that fake rape movie. You remember they were claiming that it was all these rapes on October 7th. And then there was that documentary that they put out that was totally debunked and was garbage. And
I saw Deborah Messing did a promotion for like that October 7th movie. And I know there was a couple others.
Yes.
Yeah.
So those, right? So she's one of the people that like produced those. Yeah, so that is someone who I grew up with. I grew up in a very insulated Jewish community, and she is somebody. But honestly, I didn't know better then. It's just now the fact that they can all pretend that they don't know better is what's so infuriating. There's no reason to not know better now.
But it also speaks to the bigger issue of class consciousness, that people that sit at such a high level act like they're victims. Sheryl Sandberg's net worth is at least $2 billion. She was the CFO, I believe,
Of
Facebook for years. She came up with Zuckerberg right when it got started. And as a result, she is an oligarch. She won't tell you that she's one.
Yeah, no, she's crossed over the billion threshold for sure.
2 billion. But point is, their ideology is going to die. Now, they'll still have it in their circles, but the people are not with it. And when the side of the country that really believes in the right to bear arms says that we're not supporting Israel anymore, that's when it's inevitable that it will end. So when people like, let's say, the Hells Angels, for example, in California, are like, we're not with Israel, would you hide me? Yeah. Yeah.
That's what she said. She made a video where she got.
I know who you're talking, because I remember watching that video. Like,
yes.
Would you hide me? And you know what? That video pissed me off so badly.
Yes.
Because I was like, you understand we are hiding people in the United States right now? Like, like not even joking. We are genuinely hiding people in the United States right now. ICE is coming and breaking down people's doors and windows and stealing parents out of their cars and leaving children in the vehicles while they kidnap the parents and just, oh, baby's just crying in the car alone. Hopefully the sheriff's department comes and calls CPS. This is genuinely happening. And for them to just turn a blind eye to this and not give two fucks, I do have to say that we do have some very amazing Jewish allies in the anti-ICE spaces. There are some amazing people. One Jewish woman, she was actually detained by ICE for defending somebody like in the courthouses. And so, you know, these oligarchs and these people who say like, oh, it's because I'm Jewish. Like, no, we have Jewish people on our side. Like, don't use it as an excuse. There's some very amazing people who stand toe to toe with us on the front lines. Like, don't even try to go there with that. Zionism is not Judaism. That is a geopolitical ideology, and it has nothing to do with your faith.
I mean, and that was why it was so interesting watching what was that woman's name that was yapping about how all the left and the Jews are who have always been on the right side of history, right? And yet doesn't see the connection that yes, and we still are. And there were many, many Jewish people on the forefront of everything from suffrage to civil rights to all of those things. And for her to say that, like, and not see the connection, it's just, it's mind-boggling.
Mia, we can't thank you enough for coming on this evening. We will obviously put some clips together and some shorts, and we definitely look forward to continuing to connect, whether it's through, we like to bring guests back and do panel discussions and things of that nature, but you've been great, and that keffiyeh looks awesome, and obviously, thank you so much.
I have mine. It's just, I normally am wearing it, but I'm just sort of trying to be in my Halloween costume for the night.
I love the Miss Rachel look. Yes. And I thank you guys. Like when you guys reached out to me, I watched your one episode and about Debbie Weiserman. I was like, yeah, fuck that bitch. You know, like,
that's my congresswoman.
I loved your guys' episode about that. So, I mean, really, I appreciate all the work that you do. And thank you for amplifying activist voices and bringing attention to this. I mean, we need as much minutes in this digital world with all of this censorship going on. So thank you for pushing this.
Absolutely. And thank you for fighting the good fight out there with ICE.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mia.
You guys take care.
Have a great night. Great guests, great conversation. And if you guys did think it was a great conversation, I hope you did, because Lord knows I enjoyed it. Jen, you enjoyed it as well?
Yeah, she was lovely.
So please consider going over to patreon.com/revolutionary change for as little as $5 a month. You can become a supporter of our small but mighty and growing channel. We have had some additional super chatters come on board since we got started. David Todd, thank you so much for the $9.99. I would not be surprised if Larry, Miriam, Larry, etc., had 24-hour access to our vivid satellite images of the genocide so they can watch. Well, listen, we covered the time that Alex Karp was confronted. I don't know if he was at the 92nd Y, but it was in New York City, where the Muslim lady said, or the Palestinian lady said, "You've killed my family." And he said, "Really? I killed your family? How many?" You know.
So gross.
So yes, do I think that these are genuinely psychopathic people who revel in mass murder? Yeah, there are people that do that. It's a game.
Hence the Epstein files. There's a lot of depraved people out there.
Someday.
There's a
And
lot of
hopefully someday.
overlap.
Yes. Connie, thank you so much for the $2. I am officially a volunteer in the volunteer group for Aaron Baker. Guys, Aaron Baker is the gentleman running for Congress in the GOP primary against Larry Fat Ass Fine. So
Randy.
Randy. Yeah, well, that's what I said.
You said Larry Fine.
No, I said Randy Fat Ass Fine.
No, you said Larry Fat Ass Fine.
He looks like a Larry anyway, so maybe I can make that mistake.
Somebody put it in the chat. Someone put it, Jen is right. Thank you.
Jen is always right when I'm speaking, so that's just how it goes.
Thank you, Lila.
Okay, Randy Fat Fine. Saeed, thank you. Thank you.
It's the Punham again. That face.
Mm.
Yeah, no. It's I understand that, you know, they call it cuteness aggression. It's a little bit twisted of a phrase, but like, you know what it is? Like when you see a dog and you're like, that's the cheeks on that one.
Thank you for the 50 Revolutionary Change memberships. That is beyond generous and supportive, and we are extremely grateful. Thank you very, very much. Murdog with the $4.99 super sticker. Thank you very, very much.
Murdog.
Marvin Vargas, always a pleasure. Thank you for the $2. Have Steve, Gianna, Ben-Nun on Israel News New Live X Zios. I don't know who they are, but you can always send an email to
admin
at revolutionarychange.org.
Revolutionary Change Now.
Revolutionarychangenow.com. Excuse me, getting confused. Can you put that in the chat? That would be helpful. Murdog again with the $4.99. Hey guys, just a heads up that Laura Loomer called ICE on that British individual.
Yes.
So you're talking about Sami Hamdi.
Yes. Did you not know that that was a Loomer?
I didn't realize that was a Loomer.
Yeah, she had called him out before that. Yeah.
Loomer works for the Mossad. Like she doesn't even hide that. And of course, she's probably also getting $7,000 a post. So she's in it for the money, period.
And again, I really have to come back to, she's got to be doing something for somebody, because it's not the brains, it's not the looks. I don't know what it is. She's got something.
She's got a nice pair of knee pads.
Got a nice pair of knee pads.
Piano Man, thank you so much for the $10 super sticker. Really appreciate you, my friend. And Alex got mittens with the $2. As always, thank you for your live cast. Thank you for sticking around for our live cast. That's where it's at. So we're going to do, we got 2 segments left to do. We're going to
are?
Well, I think
I know one, because we fought about this for a while.
Yes, we did, but I think it's necessary. And then I think we'll end on a positive note, since we're in the mood of not just Halloween, but talking about powerful women that are making a real impact. So we'll end with Francesca. Apparently Francesca's a witch, Jen. I don't know if you knew that or not.
No, but now it makes me like her even more. She's a witch?
Yeah, she's a witch.
Oh my God.
And according to a Zion Nazi, she is a witch. Colin, I sent you 2 clips on...
Oh my God, I'm going to invite her to the solstice. Rachel, we got to invite her to the solstice.
Colin, we've got 2... I sent you 2 clips for Carlson and Fuentes.
I mean, it's like you're just hyping her up more, man. You give me more. I didn't think I could like her more.
Yeah. So obviously, you guys know that there was a huge conversation in content creator world this week between both Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes, who I would say, if you threw in Candace Owens, you're talking about the 3 most influential content creators in what you would call conservative spaces in politics today. And so I think the conversation was effective to the extent that the mission is the same, which is we're not going to agree on everything, but we are going to agree that dealing with the Zio-hell state is necessary. The problem is Fuentes cannot hide the fact that he has opinions that are so devastatingly out of step with what the average person thinks in this country that you end up hurting your cause. But we've often said that there's a reason why Fuentes gets away with what he gets away with, because this is a country that is hurting right now, and they are looking for people to point the finger at. So we have a couple of clips here to show you, but here is the conversation between Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson.
The case of Israel, there are a ton of Orthodox who I know who are opposed to the state of Israel. They're more Jewish than Dave Rubin, a lot more, and yet they oppose it. Jeff Sachs is like the most a wonderful man, who's Jewish, the most articulate kind of critic of the state of Israel that I'm aware of. So, like, I don't know, that's just meaningful. You can't, if everything is inherited, then there's no hope for the continuation of America. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know how Tucker came across this sort of, I don't even know if it was necessarily a shift, but I'm very impressed with how direct he is about this, even shouting out the Orthodox Jews and how dead set they are against the state of Israel. I mean, credit where credit's due, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, I think that he has been definitely having an awakening. But again, it's similar to how I feel about Candace. It's like, okay, good for you. I'm glad that you're getting this, but it doesn't necessarily make me, want to sing Kumbaya with him. And I think he's right that he needs to focus on his people.
Yes, that is actually a very good point.
You see that?
Yeah, I don't think it's genetically inherited. And what you're saying about putting aside the tribal interest for the corporate interest,
yes,
that's absolutely the case. And that's the only way the country's going to stay together.
Exactly.
And
that's my concern.
And I absolutely agree with you. I would say, though, that the main challenge to that, a big challenge to that, is organized Jewry in America. I don't think Bill Ackman is capable of that. I don't think Sheldon Adelson is capable of that. I don't think Yoram Hazony is capable of that, for that matter. And many other, on the right and the left. And I see Jewishness as the common denominator. And you're right. It's not all Jewish people feel the same way. No one would say that, but that does seem to be the common denominator. And I just feel like it needs to be called out explicitly. And I like what you said the other day. If you're serving in another country's military or have dual citizenship, you really can't be a part of this project.
Well, that's just.
Yes.
So how would you describe his explanation regarding organized Jewry?
That they just can't get it together?
Well,
is that what he was saying? He was basically saying that he called out people like Ackman and, whoever else he called out. And it sounded like the point he was making is they could not get a whole movement together. And of course they can't. There's nowhere near enough people that would be with them. That's what they have to rely on the Christian Zios for.
Yes, and I do think that, of course, is the key ingredient here, which is something that Tucker really went into. And I believe it is on this clip that I also pulled when it addresses the fact that Tucker, in particular, has a very big problem with Christian Zionism.
Ben Shapiro, I've never seen anything on the Daily Wire that's actually critical of Israel. And he quote tweets me and says, to accuse a Jew of dual loyalty is the surest sign of anti-Semitism.
So you're an 18-year-old college freshman, you're clearly talented, and you ask not crazy questions. And rather than explain it, they just call you an anti-Semite. That seems like the least effective thing you could do. Why do you think they did that?
Looking back, you could say they made a terrible mistake because look at sort of what they provoked or what they catalyzed. But at that time, you got to consider, I'm 18 with no following. And so for them, it was very easy that if they detected that a promising young guy was going to become anti-Israel in the conservative movement, they could crush that person.
This is also why I think when you look back upon what happened to Charlie, he got too big. He became way too effective in his control over millions of people, that if he did step up within the Christian Zionist community and specifically said, we no longer will be party to the activities of the so-called state of Israel. And I do think that if you look at everything that transpired over the summer leading up to his assassination, it's a sign of, we cannot control this guy. What are we going to do about this? And in the end, history has shown that Israel will assassinate whoever they feel they have to in order to protect their genocidal state, even if it looks as obvious as it does. Do you really think anybody out there at this point doubts that Israel had something to do, not just with Charlie, but everything that is going on in terms of the political messaging PR that we have to deal with in this country? Why Ben Shapiro gets as large of a reach and a platform that he does, in mainstream, no less. I mean, he's on CNN all the time.
Oh, you want me to answer that? It was
Jen,
a very.
are we having a conversation or not?
It's hard. I'm trying to, but it's like you're just, you've been going on for a while. Like you've gone a lot. You've got that was like a pretty long pontification, and I don't want to interrupt because then people say I'm insufferable. So I just sort of end up just letting you go and go and go and go, and then it's like you end in a question, and it's like there's a whole lot to unwrap there. So I mean, and I'm also get distracted by the haters in the chat.
Stop looking at the chat.
No, because I don't want these people in my chat. This is my house.
When you
So
have
anybody who's saying Jews and Browns don't belong here in those language, Nick is great. Jews and Browns don't belong in America.
Jen,
that is so interesting.
Jen, if we have 500 people in the chat and 5 of them are being dickheads, that's the price you pay to have a channel.
No, that makes it easy enough to ban them. There's very few. That's my point.
Fair enough. But I do think that Fuentes is bringing up a good point about how he was just an 18-year-old college kid, and he called out Ben Shapiro, and Shapiro, with this massive platform that he already had, felt the need to go after him and try to crush him. I mean, that really says, as we've been saying all along, just how precarious their ideology and their power structure really is.
I'm with you. I think it's, look, they're on their way out, and they're grasping and they're desperate. Unfortunately, they have a lot of resources, and they're going to hurt a lot of people on their way out the door.
At least somebody actually thinks that I might be correct about this. Thank you. Hey, Rachel, I appreciate it. Not 100% that. Got to let people speak their mind.
No, people can speak their mind about whatever they want to politically, but you're not going to make just blanket hateful comments in my house. This is my house. And I've said it before. It's like, I don't need to, I enjoy it. I like the community. I'm trying to build coalition with people, and people that make ridiculous, bigoted, hateful, stupid commentary are not on my team. You're not on my team. And just because you also don't like Israel for whatever your reasons are, that's great, but you're not on my team. Anywho, continue.
People need to see through the bullshit. And that's why I often say Fuentes is very gifted, but don't be fooled. You've often said that people need upper management. That's also a huge part.
Well, people do like upper management. And I don't think, though, people can definitely joke about the Jews. By all means, you can joke about the Jews, but there's a difference between.
Have you heard about the tires Firestein?
No, stop.
Not only did they stop on a
I will abide again. I am not woke on the chat, but I'm not going to allow just hate shit that's non-constructive. Like, there's no point.
Well, fair. We'll finish us this clip, and we have one more.
So they sort of were alerted, oh, there's a precocious young guy that isn't on board with Israel. We'll keep an eye on him. And if he gets too vocal or popular, we'll cut him down. We'll crush him.
Gee, Jen, who did that just happen to?
Again, and that's why
Occam's razor?
Seemed that right after, and I don't know when it was that Nick got his talking to after Charlie Kirk was killed.
Yes.
That he sort of very quickly was told, don't you dare go down.
Don't you even dare suggest that
don't go down that rabbit hole. You know nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And he apparently has been maintaining that line, which is interesting to watch him thread that needle, in that he sees it, but yet he doesn't see the connection to what happened to Charlie.
Oh, he sees it. He just knows where to draw the line. He's got a big business to worry about. But if there is a point of fact about why this conversation between Fuentes and Carlson was so important, the statement that is made here is why I think this is a vital clip to make.
Explain Mike Huckabee, Ted Cruz, and there are a lot like that. John Bolton. I mean, I've known them all. George W. Bush, like Karl Rove. I mean, all people I know personally who
you probably don't have anything to do with anymore, but at one time.
Sorry. Like, that was a list right there. I mean, woo!
Hey,
that
Tucker,
requires a lot of hits. I'm just saying.
Tucker, don't stop. Just keep rounding them up. You were on fire. All of these guys that need to be banished to the Phantom Zone. Who else you got while you're at it?
Oh my God, that whole list. Ew.
You forgot Condoleezza Rice and Hillary Clinton, but if you want to include them, please, by all means.
I've seen be seized by this brain virus, and they're not Jewish. Most of them are self-described Christians, and then the Christian Zionists who are, well, Christian Zionists. Like, what is that? Right. And I could just say for myself, I dislike them more than anybody, because what? Because it's Christian heresy, and I'm offended by that as a Christian. That's why. So I don't, why not? I'm pissed at the neocons, very pissed. I've said that a million times. I've been mad since December of 2003 when I went to Iraq. And so I went and asked straightforward questions to Ted Cruz, because that seemed like he was a sitting senator who's serving for Israel by his own description. He seemed like a worthy target. I'm not going after MTG, who's the most sincere why not go after Ted Cruz? I don't understand.
Because Ted Cruz is not only the most detestable member of the U.S. Senate, but he is the embodiment of every stereotype, bad commercial. Now, do I believe that Ted Cruz is an evil and sinister person like Tom Cotton is?
Or no. Rick Scott?
Yeah. I don't think Ted Cruz is an evil person. I think he's a scumbag, and I think he's a corporate whore.
He's a total bootlicking sellout.
Now, if you're asking me, do I think that Ted Cruz has the capability to press the red button the way that Tom Cotton and Rick Scott have the ability to do?
Yeah, no.
I don't think Ted Cruz is that person.
No, because I think at the end of the day, but he's kind of like a pussy.
100%, just like Lindsey Graham.
Yeah.
Lindsey Graham will allow.
No, but Lindsey Graham would push the button.
You think so?
Yes. Oh my God. If Lindsey Graham had the button, he would have already pushed it for Iran. Oh my God. Yes, absolutely.
This is for my favorite person who ever lived, John McCain. I know I couldn't get as many as you because I'm too much of a pussy to join the military.
Yeah, he is.
But don't ask
when we were talking about Ted Cruz and, he's the worst, but Rick Scott is, and different. Cruz is just smarmy, and they're all, honestly, it's really how many angels can dance on the head of a pin, or arguing over, when you say, which is your favorite president? And I'm like, it's arguing over which is your preferred venereal disease. They all suck.
Yeah, they're all on borrowed time, because if you have the platforms that Fuentes and Owens and Carlson have, and you're seeing so many members of Conservative Inc. go after Tucker Carlson because so much of their infrastructure financially is built on the back of the whole Zio state contingent. Well, inevitably, it's not going to last because we see where the people are. I'm not going to cover the Stephen Miller's wife story with Cenk Uygur tonight, but rest assured, I will cover it on Saturday. This woman suggested that Cenk Uygur needs to be deported. They have become so brazen in their language and what they think.
But did you watch how that got taken down by, she got taken down by Cenk and the other guy. But when she said,
Jen, it was Omar Badar.
Oh my God, I knew he was familiar.
Yeah.
I knew he was familiar. Okay. So when she was basically saying that him calling her a liar was anti-Semitic and calling out her husband was anti-Semitic, and she went off and they tore into her, she was like ridiculous. She is ridiculous. That is a ridiculous human being. No, we think you're a liar because you're a liar. We think your husband's a piece of shit because he's a piece of shit. Actually, the fact that he's Jewish is kind of, it's embarrassing to me as somebody who identifies as being raised Jewish.
He's a little man.
Jewish people.
He's a little man. He's a very little man.
He is grotesque.
Yeah, he looks like.
Let me tell you something. She's no prize. Okay, like she definitely comes off like total trash. I don't know what her background is. I know nothing about her, but she comes off like complete trash.
Yeah. I would say that collaborating further.
Is she really?
She looks like she could be. So anything's possible.
Because that would explain my aversion.
And by the way, I sent him a message just saying I cannot believe what she did. And I asked him, do you think it's time for a follow-up conversation? And he said, yeah, in a couple of weeks.
Wait, who?
Cenk.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I've Cenk back on the channel. We'll talk about that incident.
Because he was great. I thought he was great. Well, the two of them, yeah.
Well, listen,
I can't believe I didn't realize that was Omar Badar. Anyhow.
Yeah. We give credit where credit is due. Same thing with Anna. You know, we have our disagreements with Anna, but Anna has been spot on about Israel and how she, of course, went after Emily Austin. Sometimes when critical issues rise to the surface and you want to make sure that they are dead and buried, you can leave no stone unturned in terms of who you need to collaborate with in order to get it done. I would very likely, under no other circumstances, collaborate with Nick Fuentes. But if it's what it's going to take to end the Zio state's control over our country.
Is he in any way, guys, let me know. I'm a little old compared to Nick Fuentes and probably the majority of his followers and his crowds. But I've been saying for a long time that, and I have two boys, and my little, who is in college, is in this age group where him and all his friends, their hairdo, they all look like alpacas. Have you noticed that this whole generation of like these boys look like alpacas? And I'm wondering, is Nick Fuentes somehow the did it come from that? Like, is it that, like, is he a trendsetter in that way? You know, you guys know what I'm talking about? All these boys, my kids' friends, they all look like alpacas. Anywho.
Speaking of somebody who looks like an angel, even though they want to call her a devil, there is no better place to end this evening than with, when you think about the impact that Miss Rachel has had on the domestic, in terms of the international side, I would say her equivalent would be Francesca Albanese. And for somebody who the Zion-Nazis are calling a witch, if I were her, I'd be wearing that as a badge of honor. I assume you would too.
Well, again, it's don't threaten me with a good time. Like, that just makes me like her more.
Now, I don't know which is which because Colin did not respond, but I'm going to take a guess here and go with this one. So we'll see what happens. I'll know right away if it's the right one.
And goes to there.
And it's not. This is it.
Every time you try to curse Israel with falsehood and libels, Your curses fail. Miss Albanese, you are a witch.
Do you notice the country that's right next to Israel, Jen?
Yeah, I'm trying, guys. I'm working on my conversion.
Well,
Gaelic is not easy.
you try. It'll get you along there. I understand exactly what's coming out of our mouth every
I
time we talk.
love Ireland and the Irish people.
Now, of course, you would say somebody calling you a witch would be considered a badge of honor, would it not?
Well, I mean, and I don't subscribe to any particular form of Wicca or paganism or whatever, but yeah, because I know when I think of witches and people that were killed for being witches in this country and other countries, those have been the women that would be my people. So I know that. So I'm smart enough to know that. I mean, they were the midwives and the healers and the women that were like matriarchs, and they were women that didn't, submit and had a different way of doing things. That's who are witches, right? Like that's who we killed as witches. I'm not talking from a religious perspective. And obviously neither is this man, as Francesca is most likely Catholic. But regardless, he is equating her with my people.
Yes.
And this report is another page in your spell book. You have tried to curse Israel with lies and hatred, but your poison has failed.
I'm bringing my spell book next time. I have a really cute spell book. Anyhow,
Any spells that you can cast on this piece of shit?
I have, of course, but I don't do hexes on people. I don't ever do negative hexes on people ever. I would never think that, and I wouldn't call it that. Again, I'm not in any sort of religion.
Fair enough.
Every page of this report is an empty spell.
First of all, my first comment it's a reaction to the representative of the State of Israel, who finally, after 3 years, honored this mandate of his presence. Look, it's grotesque and frankly delusional that a genocidal state can't respond to the substance of my findings. And the best thing that he resorts to is accusing me of witchcraft.
Sorcery. I love it. Oh, I love it.
Maybe she is.
Give her a proper headwear and a wand, and I'll be that for Halloween next year.
So be it. You're the one accused of genocide. If the worst thing you can accuse me for is witchcraft, I take it. But rest assured that if I had the power to make spells, I would use it not for vengeance. I would use it to stop your crimes once and for all.
See, spoken like a true witch. Like I'm saying, you don't put out negative shit. Everything comes right back at you. Everything comes right back at you. You put negative shit out there, that stuff's boomerang coming right back at you. That's why you don't do that. You don't mess with that stuff. That's why.
I think one of the reasons why she catches as much flack as she often does is because she conducts herself in a capacity that even Miss Rachel doesn't. Francesca only knows elegance and relentless pursuit of justice. Miss Rachel, on the other hand, who has always been an angel amongst all of us, is turning into a machine that is hell-bent on destroying the state of Israel because they pushed her one too many times. And eventually she decided she had enough.
Did you see the video about her trying to plan the information about her trying to plan a birthday party for Rahaf and none of the
absolutely.
Okay.
I'm surprised she didn't out the people in New York City that decided.
Do you feel classy?
Yes, but it also goes to show you that they are willing to actually break the law by discriminating against a person coming in because, God forbid, one of the Zio scumsuckers in New York City found out about it and then would have gone out of their way to destroy their restaurant.
Correct. Not restaurants. I think like play places. gym type places, like places where you would have a kid's party.
Yeah, because it's a place that might have actually had a couple of Palestinian flags up, and God forbid somebody in Manhattan happened to see it. Lord knows what they would do.
And she even said, and Miss Rachel was very clear that it would be no press, no nothing, like like all of that. And the fact that she won't name, that she doesn't name the places, that speaks volumes of her.
It does. I'm sure she would like to. I would love it if she did. But hey, I understand that people still have to, feed themselves. So I understand the desire to not go there. However, Francesca could not have responded better to that piece of garbage. She has a little bit more to say.
And to make sure that those responsibles end up behind bars. And that would make sure that everyone from the river to the sea, Jewish people, Muslim people, Christian people, and secular people lived in freedom and enjoying their rights, not just privilege for few, again, between the river and the sea.
Oh, you witchy, witchy woman. People living in peace. People living in peace from the river to you crazy witchy woman. Oh my God.
See how high she
Anyone
flies.
asking, she's Italian.
Of course she is.
I love her accent so much.
Francesca Albanese. And if she can't make a great bolognese,
I don't know. I love her accent. It's lovely.
She is one, in terms of content creation, she's definitely one of our favorite people to cover when the opportunity strikes.
She is who should have won the Nobel Peace Prize. So
there's one thing that we can agree on, is that whether it was Greta Thunberg or Francesca Albanese that should have won the Nobel Peace Prize, one thing is clear. The person, and we'll just call them the person, because they don't deserve the dignity of even having their real name addressed. The puppet person in Venezuela that they gave that award to is proof beyond any doubt that it doesn't mean anything. It's a useless award.
Marvin asked if I can do Israeli accent. I don't do any accents. I don't do accents because I am by far, I always say, I'm like, soy gringa, lo siento. Like I just, it is what it is. It is what it is. And I don't want to like destroy somebody else's sound. I don't do accents. But when I hear Hebrew now, it's like fingernails on the blackboard. And it's a problem for me. Like I'm telling you, it's one of the main reasons I have to move my Pilates studio. It's like I get up, I can't hear it. It's just, yeah.
Scream.
That's what it's like when I hear Israeli accent.
Oh, I won't give you an Israeli accent, but I give you an Austrian German accent. Jen, you look especially great this evening. As Miss Rachel, she's doing great work, and we all appreciate each and every one of you here and talking about these much needed differences that we have with our people, and we have to come together. We have to come together and understand that I really like the Italian people, the Italian women especially. I've had myself a lot of different Italian women over the years, and Francesca, she's really special. So thank you for coming on here, and thank you all for supporting this great but incredible channel. So we don't have to get to the chopper, but you have to get over to the donation page and support this wonderful podcast called Revolutionary Change. Now do it now. I hope you enjoyed that. And if you are so inclined, patreon.com/revolutionary change. For as little as $5 a month, you can become a supporter of our small but mighty channel. We did have a couple of more come in, so we have to give a big shout out to Libertarian Social Democrat. Always a pleasure for the $1.99. I did an Amazon flex job at Zioland NMB.
Wow. That's the hood. That's where I grew up.
Mm-hmm. Amen. Sol Dwardy, always a pleasure. Thank you for the $10. From the beginning, I knew Nick was backed by those deep state lobbyists. He has a double standard Zionist view. UK has Tommy Robinson, and we have Nick Fuentes. Again, if you are only willing to go so far on a particular issue, then you're kind of showing your hand. Now, I will
And
not
you're
say,
basically the conservative equivalent of Pepper.
yes,
Okay.
I would say that that's fair, but I would not say that Fuentes and Tommy Robinson are the same. Tommy Robinson, though, is pretty loathsome and disgusting. I would say that their nationalistic tendencies are definitely the same. That I would agree with. And finally, Connie with the $2. Nick conflates Zionism with Jewish only, 26 years old. Yeah, that's where we have to call it out because it's not the same. And that's the message of our channel.
What's 26 years old?
That's all he is. Nick Fuentes is 26.
Well, you know, I mean, and look, it's like that explains, I mean, you know, our brains are not really fully developed until around that time. So,
well, and not only that, but you can't discount the fact that Fuentes is an incel. I mean, you're talking about a guy who basically spends his entire life online, doesn't really have personality that a lot of people tend to lose because they grew up with technology, that their tendencies is more towards online communication than face-to-face communication. Our medium in bringing people together here is part of a greater mission, which isn't to just be online all the time. Having the ability to connect with people and try to get people together outside of this sphere is also part of the mission. If we work together and continue to fight on the lines that we are fighting on, being as efficient as we can be, again, no one's perfect, but the goal here is to try to revolutionize this country. And I'd like to think that we are doing our part to help that be facilitated. Final thoughts before we go.
I was going to show you something cool that I got today. So I was playing around on Canva. You know, I like to do that. And you know, I like business cards because I'm often in places that are rural, that are, or I'm talking to somebody who's helping me connect my trailer. And these are people that, you know, I'm not going to sit there with them while they're working. But like, can you pull out your phone and follow me? So I like to have a card. You know, I like to have a card.
Sure.
And so I had these cards made. They're very cool.
Ooh, I like what I see. QR code as well. What is each
Both
one?
of them. Well, one's the channel and one's the pack.
Ah, very nice.
Isn't that cool? Yeah, and they're the rounded corners, and I paid for because I don't need a lot. I just want a little box, and I paid for that like soft touch that they feel like they're that velvety soft touch and rounded corners. They're very fancy.
I dig.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to try to have a nice little get up for Saturday.
Okay, Peter's going to pretend it's still Halloween on Saturday, even though he missed it. So everybody's going to get to have Halloween twice here.
Smash that like button, share, subscribe, do all those things that we ask you to do. We love you all. We appreciate you all. I'll see you Saturday. And
Free Palestine.
happy Halloween, guys. Have a good night.